And God said, "Let there be
The
light."
Lord says, "Let my people go."
I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
This is the Talkin' Bible podcast.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Wednesday's episode of Talkin' Bible with Rohan Bell and Jeanie Schwartz back for another day. And today we're talking, Jeanie, about Jesus healing blind people. We touched on this a couple of days ago, but we didn't specifically drill into it. And then I talked about it yesterday as well with Zacchaeus and Bartimaeus. But this is a similar story, but earlier in Jesus' ministry.
And this is an example of Jesus bringing the kingdom of heaven down because he's healing the blind.
He's healing the blind, which is one of those kingdom values. Listen to Monday's episode. Two days ago, we talked about that.
And it was prophesied, right? That the Messiah, the kingdom, there would be healings, blind people would see.
Yeah, I'd have to Google exact. It's an Isaiah prophecy that had become very prevalent by the time of Christ, that they knew that the Messiah, they would do these kind of miracles. But yeah, it's in Isaiah. Maybe I'll find it and we can put it on tomorrow's episode. I won't go finding it now because we'll run out of time.
So in this one, two blind men are following Jesus in Matthew 9:27-31, and they're calling out to him, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." And when Jesus enters a house, the blind men approach him, and Jesus says to them, "Do you believe that I can do this?" And they say to him, "Yes, Lord." Then he touches their eyes, saying, "Let it be done for you according to your faith." And their eyes were opened. Then Jesus warned them sternly, "Be sure that no one finds out." But they went out and spread the news about him throughout the whole area. People can say straight away, wow, when the good news comes upon you, you just can't stop speaking about it.
You can't stop talking about it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing, even though they were told by Jesus, don't do it.
They weren't very obedient, were they?
Oh, they weren't. They were too excited.
Not great disciples.
I wonder, someone said to me years ago, where was Jesus' biggest failing in the entire ministry? And it's clearly that he was getting people not to talk about him when he told them not to.
That's
was
true.
the one thing he could never get them to do.
Yes,
he said, always keep quiet, don't let anyone know. But they just went and did it all the time.
Yeah, but that is discipleship and obedience right there. These guys weren't set out to be disciples.
They weren't setting out. They were just healed blind people.
They were just excited.
Exactly.
Yes. What did they say? They went and spread the news about him. Okay.
Yeah. He's a man who made me see.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to say, isn't it? I was blind, now I can see. Yep.
It was a good thing that
absolutely.
he did.
Yeah.
Just tell me, what does Son of David mean? Because they call him Son of David.
So they recognize something here that Matthew only alludes to a little bit, actually, in his scriptures in his gospel prior to this. There's a little hint of it, but it becomes a key theme in Matthew's gospel writing as a Jewish believer that Jesus is the Messiah, the promised descendant of David that would rule and reign as the Messiah. And that comes from 2 Samuel 7, which is a prophecy that Nathan the prophet gives to King David and says that you will have a descendant on your throne forever and he will rule and reign on the earth. So it became a definite link to all the way back to the kingdom of King David.
I have a reading here from Psalm 72, which says that the Son of David would deliver the needy when they call, the poor and those who have no helper. And when he was revealed, the Son of David would save the lives of the needy and redeem their lives from oppression and violence.
Very good. Yeah, Psalm 72. That's good.
So this is a huge honor to be called Son of David.
Yes, huge.
So Matthew is indicating to us that, hey, this guy isn't just your regular dude.
Yep.
He's pretty significant.
He is the one that you're waiting for. They are waiting for the Messiah, and they believe the Messiah will be a descendant of King David.
Why do you think then when they approach Jesus, knowing that Jesus can perform miracles, they don't actually ask him to give him sight? They just say, "Have mercy on us." What would it mean for the Son of David to give mercy to these people?
Oh, that's a good question. I've not thought about it, but the first thing that comes to mind is that it would be the prerogative of a king one of the things the king would often do would be to pronounce mercy upon someone who was not worthy of it, who had done something wrong, and the king could do what the president can do and pardon people. That would be one of the rules of the king. So maybe they're asking for some kind of pardon. Maybe they have some sense in which was a common view at the time. We now know it not to be the case, but there was a common view at the time that if people had some kind of infirmity, such as blindness, that it was linked in some way to sin. So in John's Gospel, we have Jesus healing the blind man in John's Gospel, John chapter 9, thereabouts. And his disciples say to him, hey, who sinned, this man or his parents that he was born blind. So they had some sense that these infirmities were linked to sins, and maybe that would be something they thought they'd done something wrong, or maybe their society had told them they'd done something wrong, and therefore they're asking for mercy first and foremost.
Do you think
how's that for a wild guess?
That's a good guess.
I don't know.
Do you think the second question would have been, "Hey, can you heal my eyes?"
After the mercy question?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. But I think that was probably to fit with what I've just said. I suspect that probably they are still trying to come to terms with the fact that they believe that somehow they're not worthy of being healed because they need mercy first. Maybe we don't know anything about these men.
No, we don't know anything. It's just so interesting that Jesus doesn't grant them mercy.
He says, "Do you believe I can make you see?"
Yeah. It's like he knows what. No, he doesn't say to make you see that I can do this.
Okay. My version says, "Do you believe I can make you see?" That's interesting. I wonder what the original.
Seems like Jesus knew what they wanted.
Yeah.
Before.
Well, other versions will say, "Yeah, what do you want me to do for you?" And he'll say, "Rabbi, I want to see." I think that's Bartimaeus. Like, "Rabbi, I want to see."
That's not in this
No,
one.
I don't think it's in this context. So I'm conflating all these stories. These multiple versions of these gospels.
Focus on this one.
This one, okay. Do you believe I can? Well, this version says, "Do you believe I can make you see?" What does yours say in verse 28?
Do you believe that I can do this?
Okay, so they're very different straight away, because your version seems to be saying, "Do you believe I can give you mercy?" Because that's what they're asking for.
Yes.
Do you believe I can give you mercy? That sounds like that makes more sense than Jesus saying, as it does in the NLT here, "Do you believe I can make you see?" Because they haven't even asked to be able to see, have they?
No, they haven't. But if Jesus is granting mercy, and the whole idea that physical blindness is also a spiritual blindness, because the Bible often links those together. So when they say, "Do you believe that I can do this?" is Jesus saying, "Do you believe that I can grant you mercy and give you the eyesight to see the kingdom of heaven?"
Yeah, I wonder if that's a good elaboration on what he's saying. I suspect what he's saying is going deeper than physical sight. Yeah. Do you believe I can welcome you into the kingdom? Do you believe there's a place for you in my family? Do you believe you'll be able to see physically and spiritually?
Well, yes, but it's pretty clear that because Jesus actually grants them eyesight,
yes,
we think physically and spiritually, that Jesus, as Matthew is trying to point out here, that Jesus has the power over both the physical world and over the spiritual world.
Very good.
But healing comes through Jesus.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. That's really good. I think you've hit on something that warrants, like, to sit down and just study this passage and not study in light of all the other blind passages where all the other authors, and even Matthew and other passages, brings in little nuances, because there's probably a point that's being made here that's being muddied a little bit by all the other explanations that are given when Jesus heals blind elsewhere. So I think you hit on something that's worth thinking about there. So let me see if I can rephrase what you're saying. Are you saying that when they are asking for mercy, part of that is that they have some sense that they would like forgiveness, they would like the results of their sin to be forgiven, which would hopefully include removal of blindness or being able to see again, and that somehow that would lead to some sense of being fully participatory in God's kingdom?
Yes. Yep.
And that's what Jesus is asking them? Do you believe I can do all that?
Yes, because when they say, "Have mercy on us," that to me implies that they are thinking spiritual mercy straight up. So they've actually gone, because they've been following him. It seems to me they're more important about having spiritual mercy given to them than they are about having physical sight.
Yeah, because it would make more sense if they would be going, "Son of David, make us see again." But they
don't even talk about the fact
sight.
they can't see.
Yes, yeah. They're looking at a deeper issue.
Yes.
Mixing the metaphor. But they're blind in the physical, but they're actually wanting to be able to see in the spiritual. They're wanting to be able to see God's kingdom, see the Son of David working in their life.
Yeah, because if they're calling him Son of David, that seems to be that they want to be part of his kingdom.
Absolutely they do.
That he is the leader, that they
want to serve him. They want him to be their king. Yes, that's exactly right. So it's almost like their sight is a subsequent or a secondary thing to their desire to be part of the kingdom, be forgiven, be welcomed into his family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
That's what I think. And then when Jesus answers, when they say, "Yes, Lord, we believe that you can do this, grant mercy to us," then he touches their eyes saying, "Let it be done for you according to your faith." So have they received physical sight because of their faith, or is he saying you are receiving mercy and spiritual insight because of your faith in the fact you believe that I could do this?
I reckon it's the second one. What does your version? What version have you got in front of you there?
The Christian Standard Bible.
Christian Standard. So what does verse 29 say? What does he say is going to happen?
Then he touched their eyes, saying, "Let it be done for you according to your faith." And their eyes were opened.
Okay. So they're specifically talking, it seems to be talking about a natural eyesight opening there. So the New Living Translation says he touched their...
Is it though? Really?
Well, it could be implying... Well, in the first instance, I think it has to be. Their eyes are opened. These are blind men.
But are they really blind?
Well, yeah, that's a
we
valid
don't
point.
know. Are they really physically blind, or does Matthew mean two spiritually blind men? You can read it both ways.
Well, okay. Yeah.
That's a stretch too far for you,
I think
is
that's
it?
a stretch too far for me. I think when it says they're blind, they're blind. But it could be because, I think that's what it's saying. Blind men followed along behind him. Yeah, I think it implies a spiritual blindness. Certainly in other passages, it's really clear. It's really clear. I'm using all these size metaphors now. It is really clear that they're blind because they have... Jesus walks into the house and he says, "Come and get them," and they have to find him through the crowd. So I think there's an implication here of physical blindness. For me, it's more likely that there's a physical blindness, but Matthew is intending to overlay the metaphor and show that actually there's a spiritual blindness and a spiritual sight, which is more important
talking about both.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
he's being very clever here.
Yeah, I think it's very clever wording. Yeah. I don't think it's not that they're physically blind. I think if that was the case, geez, it would be too cryptic. It says two blind men. So I think most people just assume that means they're blind. But Jesus is definitely speaking to a different kind of blindness and a different kind of sight, a deeper kind of blindness and a deeper kind of sight. And that's important too in today's world where, people are blind. Otherwise, people in our communities who have sight issues or are deaf or have other imperfections, they can be seen as second-class citizens in today's society. But that's not the case at all, because a blind person can have greater level of spiritual insight than a person who's not blind, than a sighted person. So there has to be a sense in which we're dealing with something deeper than physical blindness here.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Yeah, I read
for
that.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly when you hear the verses, the blind will see and the deaf will hear. It's like he's speaking about two things there.
You can't just be talking about physical stuff.
Jesus didn't come just so blind could physically see. He came so the spiritually blind could spiritually see.
Yep.
And set people free.
Maybe we need to look at these passages. It's Isaiah 53. I'm just looked it up. Isaiah 53.
You said you'd do that later.
I know, but it fits the context. So let's just do it quickly. We won't bring it into the next conversation. Isaiah 53, 10 to 12, because it fits the context of what we're talking about here with the Messiah.
But while you look at that, just think about the power of Jesus in this moment. What he can actually do.
Yeah, keep going.
He can physically heal people and he can supernaturally, spiritually heal people in the moment. He has control and power and authority over the physical realm and the spiritual realm. I mean, this passage to me points more to Jesus than it does about the guys.
Oh yes, totally. It's showing who Jesus is. Definitely pointing to his absolute authority and who he is, not just his authority, but his willingness to accept people whose society. Look, to talk about Zacchaeus yesterday. These blind guys were outcasts in society. They were regarded as sinful because of they wouldn't have enjoyed all the privileges of being a part of God's family. And Jesus is showing he's welcoming them in.
It's another rescue mission.
It's a rescue mission. I like it. Yeah, definitely.
Have you got your verses there?
Okay, so I found them. I thought not Isaiah 53. It's Isaiah 35, 5 and 6. I'm going to put my glasses on. Isaiah 35, 5 and 6. Then will the eyes of the blind be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer and the mute tongue shout for joy. So that's Isaiah 35, 5 and 6. It's often seen as a direct prophetic passage of the Messianic age. Jesus explicitly refers to this when John the Baptist's disciples ask him if he's the Messiah, and he actually says to them, "Go back and tell John what you've seen. You've seen the deaf hearing and the eyes of the eye," exactly specifically referring to that. Also Isaiah 61, 1 and 2, that says where Jesus says, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me because he's anointed me to preach good news to the poor." So that one fits as well, where he says, "Today in your hearing you have seen this fulfilled." So they're the two passages, but I think it's the Isaiah 35 one that Jesus is picking up on, and they picked up on specifically. Hence, healing lame people, restoring sight to blind people, letting the deaf people hear. Those things in specifically were messianic in their nature, and that's why they were a big part of Jesus' ministry. That's why we see them repeated so many times in the stories of the Gospels. So there you have it. So I think they are not necessarily, while it's obviously a good thing for a blind person to be able to see or a deaf person to be able to hear, there's more depth to it than that, which is back to what you're saying. There's a spiritual depth to these stories that Jesus is when he's speaking about sight, he's talking about more than physical sight. He's talking about spiritual sight. And this does become apparent to fulfill what you're saying too in John's Gospel. When Jesus heals that blind man who's been born blind, the Pharisees, Jesus straight away actually turns it into a spiritual conversation. Are we blind too? And Jesus says, no, if you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty of your sin. So Jesus does illustrate that I'm actually here to talk about more than physical blindness. That's a metaphor for a deeper level of blindness. Is that where you're going?
Yeah. There's just a lot going on in this tiny little passage, I think.
Going on.
Even the fact that the men aren't named is significant because it's Jesus who's named. It's Jesus who matters in this story.
Yeah, so Matthew's really wanting to focus on Jesus in this story. Yeah.
Yes, and I've just lost my notes for a second. This question here, do you believe that I can do this? Have you ever asked that about Jesus in your life? Like, do you believe that Jesus could actually bring you that miracle or Jesus could save that person? Have you ever found yourself questioning the power of Jesus in your own life?
So that's okay. That's the reverse of how I see Jesus asking me that question. Rohan, do you believe I can do this for you? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Jesus is often asking me that question. When I'm on my best, I'm like this.
So there's two things. Jesus can ask you,
yes,
do you think I can do this? But then you ask yourself, do you think Jesus could do this?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Well, it is. It's depending which way around the question is. When I'm at my best, I'm definitely believing that Jesus can do things. When I'm not in a good place, it's harder to believe that. But I'm certainly, after 35 years as a Christian, hitting the wall multiple times, seeing multiple times when I needed a breakthrough, needed a miracle, and having seen Jesus come through, it gets easier to now go, okay, I don't like this mess I'm in, but I've seen Jesus come through. Yes, I can believe he can come through again. But that just comes with Christian maturity.
Do you think this statement then is hard to understand? The one, let it be done for you according to your faith.
Okay.
So has Jesus at sometimes said to you, Rohan, because you don't have enough faith for this moment, you're only going to get this much of the miracle?
Yeah, that seems to be a point. There seems to be a direct link in these stories between us expressing that we believe God can do something and God actually doing it. Yes. And I wouldn't say it's that Jesus is holding out on us. It's more that he wants to, but he also wants us to learn how to ask for something, learn how to exercise our authority in our partnership with him. You can have a really rich business partner, but if you don't ask that business partner and learn to accept that business partner wants to give you the resources that you need, and you're afraid to ask, that business partner may come to a point where they'll go, well, actually, I want you to learn the importance of asking. And if you don't ask, you might not get what you need to do life. And it's a little bit like that with this.
But they don't ask to be healed of their sight.
They believe that Jesus
have
can
mercy on us.
Yes, that's right. But they believe that Jesus can do it. When
Jesus knew
asks,
what they really wanted.
Yes,
I suppose.
Yes, he did. But they
knew he could heal them.
They knew he could do all of those
Yes.
things because he's the son of David. So healing blind people is part of that reputation that they knew the son of David would have, and they recognize him for that. But they obviously believed Jesus could do whatever it was that they were asking of him, whether that's physical sight, mercy, spiritual blindness being removed. They believed Jesus could do that. They had something inside them, and that was what Jesus was asking. And Jesus will ask us that question, Jeanie, do you believe I can do this for you? And it's on us to go, yes, Lord, I do believe. And often, just like in this, according to your faith, will it be done to you.
How do I get to that point to say, yes, Lord, I believe?
Build your faith in the Word of God. Build your faith in prayer. And sometimes you'll still get to that point where you'll be like that father whose son was throwing himself in the fire, where you'll go, Lord, I want to believe. I'm really finding it hard right now. Please help me overcome my unbelief. And that's often enough.
Well, see, that one I can pray really easily.
That one you can pray.
Yeah.
But
help me with my unbelief.
That's a good starting point. But hopefully the more we pray that, the more we'll get to that point where we'll get a confidence and we'll become more bold and courageous and more aware of the nature of God and the confidence in who Jesus is, that we will be able to move into that realm of declaring, no, this is actually the will of God. I'm going to pray for this thing and not have to wrestle with the unbelief so much. We will always be wrestling with unbelief to some degree, but hopefully as we mature, we are quicker to believe and we'll have less unbelief that we have to wrestle with.
I prefer to use disbelief than
disbelief?
unbelief.
Yeah, yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Because I think it's hard to believe God would do that for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I have the unbelief that he's not able to do it.
Okay.
I just disbelieve that he would do it.
So it's a personal thing for
Yes.
you. Okay. I believe God can, but I don't know if he will.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's a really important thing too. That often is, if you as a listener are wrestling with that, the first thing to look at there is, what is your understanding of the nature of God? Which is, well, you would say why you do this podcast series about Jesus is because you want to see who Jesus is by what he says. Because deep down inside, that belief that if we are at that point where we believe God can, but we don't know if God will, that's often related to our own identity of who we believe God sees in us, who he sees us as. We believe he's all powerful and all that, but do we either believe he's not loving or caring or close enough, or we believe we're not worthy of it?
So are you saying I've got identity issues?
I'm not saying that. You might be.
I've got self-identity and God identity issues.
Yes, I think to the degree that...
Oh, this is like therapy.
This is like therapy session right here, isn't it? I'm not good at therapy. But yeah, a little bit of that. A little bit like if that's the question you're wrestling with, then yes, it's about who is God and who are you in the eye. Who do you see yourself as a child of God, and what do you see of the nature of God? Because you might see him as all powerful, but do you see him as loving and caring enough?
Well, I see him as compassionate in this and wise and outreaching.
Right.
Yeah, like he actually goes to them in the sense that he gives them what they need without them asking for it.
Does he go to them?
Well,
what does it say?
yes. Well, when he entered the house, he doesn't physically go and he says to them, do you believe I can do this? That's him asking the question that needs to be asked at the time, I think. That I see that as him skipping the steps and going right to where they want him to go.
Whether that's a shortened version of the story or not, I don't know. But I think it's clear. Once again, I'm conflating it with other stories, but it says he entered the house. Other versions will say of this sort of story that the other narratives seem to indicate that he says, tell him to come here. So if you stop and think about it, that can seem harsh. Why would Jesus not go, oh, there's a blind guy who wants to get healed down the road, 2 blind guys, let me go and find them and reach them. We just read yesterday about how he went up a tree.
So they had to follow first.
There had to be some following. There had to be some sacrifice. There had to be some effort on their part. And that was demonstrated by them coming to the house, not Jesus going to them.
You're right. There is effort on their behalf for sure.
And I think that's important too. So they had to do some work about the nature of God, because it would be easy if a whole bunch of people said, oh, cheer up on your feet, Jesus is calling you, come on. And these guys are blind, for goodness sake. I mean, it's not easy for them to make the effort to make the trip. It would have been a whole lot easier for Jesus to go to them. So it would be easy at that point to get defensive and offended by Jesus. Oh, surely he can make it easier than that for me. Oh, now you mean I've got to get up and go somewhere? I've got to go to him? Surely he could come to us. But there's in that is Jesus he's looking for a physical response of faith. It's according to your faith. Faith is something is belief in action is what Jesus is looking for here. And these guys seem to be able to do that.
Faith is belief in action.
Mm.
That's what you said. Faith is belief in action.
It's
Okay.
possible to believe but not have real faith. Belief is backed by faith. Sorry,
Like-
faith is belief backed by action, yes.
Like Zacchaeus getting up the tree.
Zacchaeus getting up a tree.
That's a faith action.
Yes, exactly.
These guys following him and approaching
Peter
him.
getting out of the boat and walking on the water is faith action. The man at the temple pool picking up his mat and walking is faith action.
Have you done a faith action today?
Have I done a faith action today? Nothing of that caliber, I don't think. Nothing that's been that quite out of that box.
Mine is. I have turning up here.
Turning up
Yeah.
here today is your faith action. Yeah, and Jesus does respond to that. So, yes, we need to, our faith will lead, it says faith without works is dead. I think there's a little bit of this here, that faith is actually requires commitment or action. Something out of the box, getting out of that boat. It requires it.
I really want to pay attention to these verses and keep thinking them through because, and correct me if I'm wrong, there aren't many times when Jesus, what's the word? I've just blanked on the word. What is that word? It's so simple. He's nice to people about their faith.
Compliments them.
Compliments.
Yeah, commends them for their faith.
Commends. I
Commends
knew,
is the word you're
because I
after.
was going to say,
Yep.
yeah, condemns, but
Yeah,
that one.
commends. Yep, gotcha.
Yes, there aren't many times that Jesus, what's the word again?
Commends them for their
Commends
faith.
people for their faith, but this is one of those times.
This is one of those times. Yep. There would be only.
So I want to know why. I want to have the faith that these guys
Yes.
have.
Yeah. There's certainly some desperation, some faith in who Jesus is, the Son of David. So they've got. First of all, let's sum it up. They have some concept of who Jesus is, that he is good and that he wants to do something and he will give them mercy. So they've got some concept of Jesus. They're obviously aware of their own sinfulness. They're aware of their own shortcomings, even if that was a bit distorted in their perspective because somehow they thought that their blindness was related to sin or something. But they've got some kind of sense of the gulf between who Jesus is and who they are. But they also obviously have this sense that Jesus will give them mercy if they ask, that this Son of David is going to not be like the kings of the world who just dismiss them, but actually would welcome them in and offer them mercy. So you can see this is all identity stuff that they're working through here. And it's because of that and their desperation to go and meet this king that Jesus says, that's the kind of faith I'm looking for.
So would it be healthy for me in my faith walk that when I come before God with a prayer, a request or a need, that I come to him knowing that he offers mercy?
Yes, that's a good starting point, that he offers mercy and that he wants to bestow mercy. It's not something he does begrudgingly. It's actually his desire. So that helps you to go, okay, I don't have to come with fear. He's looking for reasons to give mercy to me. He's just looking to respond to my faith.
Is that what you get from this
Yeah,
little paragraph here, that he's merciful?
I do now. I do now. It's been really helpful, actually. I don't know that I've spent a lot of time thinking about it as the mercy before, which is crazy because all the different gospels all have blind people saying, have mercy on us. So deeply ingrained, but you've drawn that out today. I think it warrants some more thought. But mercy is what we all need, definitely.
Yes.
Whether we can see with our eyes or not, we all need mercy.
Yes, that's what I want God to be, a merciful God.
Yeah, and clearly they have this revelation that he is. And to have that for ourselves, he's not an unmerciful, angry God. He's a God who's looking to respond to our cry of desperation for his mercy. And he'll go, hey, according to your faith, let me bestow mercy upon you.
We didn't even talk about the last verse here, how they go and spread the news and stuff. That would have been a lot of fun, how they're very disobedient. But I think that we've covered it
I think we've
don't
covered enough. We went around in circles for a little while, but we got there.
Yeah.
All right.
I love circles.
Circles are good. Circles is how we study the Bible, how we
That's
learn.
right, yeah.
Okay, folks, we'll talk to you tomorrow. See you then.